Without just saying which one is the best, which conference will be the most exciting to watch this year? The answer is the Big 12. That is very easy for me. Dare I say, and it's not even close. I do not dare say that. It's the Big 12. This depends on your perspective, because he said the most exciting. What is your perspective? How do you define exciting? Are you someone, Jake or anyone else, who's been brainwashed into thinking that you have to have a playoff spot on the line for a game to matter? Do you have to have playoff implications riding on a game for it to be exciting? If you do, maybe the Big 12's not for you this year. Maybe, maybe not. I am not of that crowd, not of that ilk, if you will. I can watch a 7-3 team play a 6-4 team, both of whom were expected to be 6-win teams, and I can say this is going to be a great game because I love Saturdays, every given Saturday, as a matter of fact. So I am looking at the Big 12, and I'm looking at the odds to win it right now. And Oklahoma is the current favorite at plus 210. Notice that plus 210 does not look like these other conferences. Ohio State is a strong minus money favorite to win the Big Ten. Bama's a minus money favorite to win the SEC. So part one of why I love this conference so much this year is there is no clear favorite. Let me describe the Big 12 to you. Last year's champ, Baylor, they think they upgraded at quarterback so much so that they let their quarterback from last year transfer. So they think they upgraded last year's conference champ. They've got, in my opinion, the best top-to-bottom coaching staff in the Big 12. They got my favorite head coach in the Big 12. They returned their entire defensive front, which was a hallmark of why they won the Big 12 last year. And yet they've got the fourth best odds to win the conference. That's called competitive balance. That's parity. You guys want it so much. Well, I'm giving it to you right here in droves in the Big 12. Also, nobody in the Big 12 is among the current top four favorites to make the playoff, which screams wide open. That's the style of play that they've become synonymous for, although I would argue it has long since become a defensive conference. Some of the best defense in the country is being played in the Big 12 now, and when did you ever think you would say that 6 or 7 years ago? This is the Every Given Saturday conference. If our tour this year has an example that we point out as a conference, it's the Big 12. Oklahoma, if you just go up and down the list, Oklahoma, Brent Venables in there. They got Dylan Gabriel pairing him up with Jeff Lebby. They think that they are sneakily as good, if not better, at many positions that some people are doubting them at. They're the preseason favorite to win the conference, over under 9.5 wins. Texas, I don't really think I need to tout them all that much. You know about Quinn Ewers. You know about the year 1 to year 2 under Sark. You know about the recruiting efforts. Will they go bang this year? Bijan Robinson at tailback. I love Keelan Robinson back there, Roshan Johnson as well. Baylor won the conference last year. I don't need to tout Baylor anymore. You know my thoughts on them. Oklahoma State is sitting there with the third best odds to win the Big 12. They came within a couple of eyelashes of being undefeated last year. I think they lost to Iowa State and they lost to Baylor in the conference championship game by inches both ways. So bounce of the ball goes a different way a couple of times for Oklahoma State. They're in the playoff last year. They're sitting there once again this year, Spencer Sanders or Sean Clifford of the Big 12. Iowa State. I hear the snoring because I know you're sleeping on them. Just know, like I told you earlier in the show, there's a lot of internal confidence there. It's not external yet. Oh, trust me. No one outside of Iowa State has it. Probably a little bit more of a comfort zone for them than the situation last year where everyone, including yours truly, was buying into him. TCU, Sonny Dykes in town. Got a couple of quarterbacks out there. We're trying to figure out who we're going to play with, hopefully win with. I know our Budrick Elliott has circled TCU as one of his sleepers in the Big 12. The rest of the country, collectively, you all, every one of you, has circled Kansas State as your other sleeper. With good reason. They have the fifth best odds to win the Big 12 this year. Adrian Martinez. Everyone hooking that wagon to Adrian Martinez at quarterback. Hey, I hope you're right. I really do. West Virginia is a team that I have circled as being one of my favorite bets of the year at the over on 5.5 wins, only because I think if we can get an answer at quarterback in JT Daniels, which I'm banking on, everything else is set to go offensively there. Secondary, we'll see. They got talent there. It has to be infused. It has to gel. But even the Kansas crowd is looking around saying, could we flirt with a bowl game this year? Now, my answer is no. But remember, we have to take this into context. Kansas has not won more than 3 games since, I want to say, 2009. So if they're even in the 4-win range, if they're playing Kansas State at the end of the year with a 4th or even a 5th win on tap, then that's huge. That would be great. We talked about Texas Tech earlier in the show. My point is, there is intrigue and excitement and allure up and down the conference. Don't fall into that trap. You know the trap that's going to be sprung for you towards the end of the year, especially if no one from this conference looks like they're going to go to the playoff. Some casual, or maybe a dozen, depending on what kind of social circles you run in, they're going to try and tell you that those are meaningless games. Yeah, they're going to tell you they're meaningless. They're not meaningless. They're not. If Oklahoma at Iowa State in week 9, with both of them off a bye week, is not enough to light your fire, as Wes Blankenship would say, your wood is probably wet. I look at TCU, and they've got at Texas, at Baylor, Iowa State in November. If they're not in the race, they could wreck someone else's season. Sark's offense versus Dave Aranda's defense in week 13, and thinking about what could be on the line in terms of maybe a conference championship berth there. West Virginia, what if they have 6 wins already, and they're going to Oklahoma and Kansas State and at Oklahoma State, that 3-game stretch? There's a lot to be excited about. You sign me up for Big 12 football 12 weeks out of the year this fall. I'm there. I'm in.